Hello students, welcome to Dcademy. From today onwards, we are going to study Civics. Civics, Democratic Politics, and subjects in Democratic Politics. Class 9, we call it as Democratic Politics 1. Class 10, Democratic Politics 2. Class 9 Democratic Politics subject Civics contains class 10 Civics Democratic Politics 2 contains difference in difference concept philosophical ideas from class 10 subjects contains so first chapter power sharing first subject first topic first chapter of our civics is power sharing. Power share power share when we say sharing sharing masel mating pangnaba pithok pisin tawnaba haiduni pithoga de kadawi akoi se akoi de leiramiba singse hengalakadra hengaloi handharakadoi but sidadi akoi na tawduisi democratic politics sidai sta akoi tawduisa power sharing haise tawduni power share tawna targadi akoi gi lebak se afaba lebak ama oibada mating pangakadoini akoi masel na tawriba thabak se achum aran se hainarakadoini akoi power singse share dongnarakadoi power sharing se kamaina democracy chataleba amada democratic politics desta power sharing is important oibra oidabra oiragana kari mana helpful oidana kari da mating pangdana power sharing is important oirino haibase koisigi ideas mayam se koigi chapter number 1 power sharing desta yengba phangdoni chapter number 1 power sharing so chapter power sharing chapters kari no so chapters power sharing first chapter Belgium and Sri Lanka Belgium ga Sri Lanka kada ethnic composition se kamaina mi makal mayama different culture different language different tradition follow tawraga lainariba sigomba mayam se kamaina leminei Belgium dana kamaina lei Sri Lanka dana kamaina lei power sharing leibra leitabra kamaina tawi habado khona first when yengani. Then majoritarianism in Sri Lanka Belgium ga Sri Lanka gadagi lairiba ethnic composition sa yengaba matungda ethnic compositions ne ethnic composition se yengba lorba matungda Sri Lanka dana atopu mawong amada majoritarianism idea majoritarianism means majority oiba makoina rule tongna majority oiba singna rule tongna agadi kadawre minority oiba mi singdana kaidawni they started feeling alienated makoise lamdugi mi na traba lamduna na thairaga thambiraba adugumba wakal feelings apulakadoini natra. Then Sri Lanka na adugumba example majoritarianism example set. Then accommodation in Belgium Belgium na kamana accommodate Belgium na so different ethnic communities mayama laiminadori ethnic compositions so different culture different languages adu mayam laiduni adu ita kamaina accommodate kamaina limina power sharing the importance of power sharing accommodation in Belgium importance of power sharing so last example example ani Sri Lanka Belgium example follow ideas philosophy mawongse yengaba matungda example ahum se munna yengminarba matungda kai lakani why power sharing is desirable power sharing pami sige maram se kai ginno haba question si answer sa koi khumna ba khona doine ko why power sharing is desirable hai se then power sharing si akhona pamba ko si maram se kai no hai se le matungda then we'll come to the last topic of our first chapter, that is forms of power ka forms of power sharing ki makhal mayam le adugi different forms ta kari no ka mayam duna koina last topic oina tamdoini akona examples in the understand tongminar matung da ka and sigi chapter number 1 there is the ayambana mainly focus to ise koi Belgium and Sri Lanka gi wari sidani Belgium and Sri Lanka gi wari se khang taragadi koi phajana understand tongminaraga chat taragadi why power sharing is desirable, what are different forms of power sharing koi yam line answer do ngam doine ba ko amna koi han han example de hominari se ko textbook sida yarni ko koi kai kai topic study to doino first chapter sida haibasi makhang then let's move to our main topics ka koi main topics la ase main topic aham ji kai na Belgium and Sri Lanka Belgium and Sri Lanka ka da lairiba different ethnic composition sa kai no haibadu ne ba kuni yingmina doise ko So Belgium and Sri Lanka examples in Mr. Ihan Hana will know about Belgium ko will try to know about Belgium Belgium is a big European country amaniba akoigi India gi Haryana ka laiba state adudagi su hen big pa adugumba small country amani Belgium haise awna Belgium si kari kamai tawi har kanda magi borders e France Netherlands Germany Luxembourg ka magi borders e kana ga leiminage har kanda Belgium gi borders e kai lamba oige har kanda France Netherlands Germany and Luxembourg si oiga doine ba ko akogi magi bordering area sing si kai no hai tar sigumba poi macha sisu important oi ko hangji sidagi hek hoba sidagi akoi khangin pulap khangin na ga chat se ba ko so Belgium gi border sing se France Netherlands Germany and Luxembourg si laire then today is a ba akogi Belgium hai balam se am chawba lam se natte ko itak pa European country amane so adu ita su magi population se a little over 1 crore gumba khatang ni my population se but the ethnic composition of this small country is very complex ka see young people Belgium hariba European country European sige Europe ki small country ama oiba Belgium sa kadoba mi only population about 1 crore kaptagi leiba populations desa magi ethnic composition sidi ang complex oiba haibadi atop ethnic mayam amana khundaba ko different ethnic communities mayam amana khundaba adugumba lam amane ba Belgium hariba lam japuna sigi figure sidasu urize ko sidesta orange naga Brussels hariba sigi capital ko mufam sidana kai dawre Brussels Harris na capital region or Wallen Harry basi makha thamba saruk sina France speaking people France lon nga wami singal lay Harry ko then sidana amuk sigi mathak thamba sina Flemish Harry basna Dutch speaking people sidana ko sigi orange yellow orange sina Dutch speaking people atani then sidagi swai matai wai dal lay riba ko German sigi matai wai dal lay riba saruk sina kadawre German speaking people ne ba ko na always ko so pick khabalam sidagi sta akoy different communities may ama different ethnic communities may ama na kundabalam ni basta isa na kwaidagi siyam na minority or na lay si German speaking people ubu dre ko German speaking people sa the France speaking Dutch speaking may ama lon may ama ngangna ba har si kay gino lon may ama ngangna basta ista akoy culture akoy tradition dazu mayam ama difference mayam urangani ba ko station lay ga doi ne ba ko awna Belgium har belam je picture tar ga su different ethnic compositions mayam na khunda ba adu a very complex country small complex country ama ne ba Belgium si ai ko tare ko so dina ka dawa akoy sige Belgium har belam se sta total population dagi manung da ko huzi u kre ko 59% ama di ka dawe Flemish region huziki Flemish region da leiba ko Flemish region hai di sigi khoi Belgium gi mathak thang da leiba saruk sing se ko Flemish region da leiba Flemish region da di ka dawa they speak Dutch Dutch speaking people neba makoidi ko Dutch ki loan se ngangi ko auna kadawre makoyi population se 59% neba ko Dutch speaking people se kayam lay haba ko Belgium na 59% lay haba kay ko Flemish Dutch speaking people se 59% neba ko lay se ko then another 40% amana kaino 40% amana Wallian reason the lay ba haibasina kaino kari speak tawi mukoi di lonja French lole kwa sida William reason the lay ba sisina kadawret French speaking people mukoi na ngang ibasina 40% kataneba French speaking people sina kwa then adagi the remaining 1% sina kadawret Belgium sigi kwai matai de leidina German speaking people only 1% sigi matai sila isina German speaking people sina only 1% kataneba lay se ko correct German speaking people sina laibasina we have only 1% haibasima khangzilo ko 1% katani German speaking people na adagidi French speaking people na we have 40% and Dutch speaking people na we have 59% in Belgium haibasima lay so capital city of Brussels na kogi Belgium ki capital city or Brussels da 80% of the people speak French while 20 are Dutch speaking. Capital mafam da layriba ko lamsigi capital da layriba sidana kadawba 80% amadine kadawba French ne ba sidaisa yamna kano orise ko masing yam se kana oire French speaking people ne yam 80% and 20% na Dutch speaking people. Adubo akoina broadly akoina lamsida yengbo matamda Belgium gi oina mapungwani yengbo matamda kai haigi akoina 59% amadi ko Belgium sidaista lairiba sidaista 59% amadi kadawre akoi Dutch speaking people ni hire yai ko adagidi amok makada lairiba Wallian reason the lairiba sidana 40% neba ka William the lairiba sina 40% they speak French ka aduga marak sidaista only 1% ka speaks Germany lon sineba akuna Belgium da uwa phangise natra but Belgium gi akoina lairiba magi city ka Brussels haiba from sidaista city sidaista akuna confined organ city the confined organ lairiba saruk sidaista mo yeng targa di kadoba French speaking people in a French speaking people consist of 80%. Koina Belgium ay capital manung do katang yeng targadi 40% dang asai pulakyo na di 40% dang oibuda capital cities dadi kadawba 80% makuini hiena lay French speaking people masing yame ba capital city da lay aduga Dutch speaking people di only 20% eba koina capital cities days ta labor uri se ko German speaking di akoi udres days the capital cities days sigi points akoi understand tori na lower si yaraba sige points akoi understand tori na lower si ko yare ko lower ko stage ta koi gi composition se kamaina lege khange composition se kamaina lege khangabani na then what is the reason for tension akoi stage ta akoi na hobud so high grade ko Belgium ko Sri Lanka gi examples yeng doi ni power sharing se kamaina lai no ko mukoi de lairiba issues se kaino haiba se akoi yeng doi ni amna Belgium gi composition ethnic composition se yeng aba matu akoi na ji udoshin mai composition se urabani na reason for tension sidaista lairiba problem se kaino ba Belgium sidaista French speaking people laire German speaking people laire Dutch speaking people laire ahum laire ko so there's a Belgium the lairiba problem se kaino haiba sinya ko na hose yeng doi se ko aduga se problem se ka minus solve tawi tawbra tokdabra haiba du ko So the minority French-speaking community was relatively rich and powerful. So say sa la eko. Kuigi reason for tension da ko is yan han har French-speaking people se mi kan labor Belgium da 40% ko alna majority or is di kana no Dutch-speaking people in the majority ne ba ko French-speaking people the only 40% ni ako na Belgium da mapung wana ye ko matam da so mo minority ching ko but adubu kay daw ba ako na city sa sa Brussels ko cities da sa yengo matam da they constitute 80% of it ka dubu kay daw French speaking people sina di capital city da lay ba di masing yam 80% level ko ang na capital da lay ba hay sa kay na they are relatively very rich and powerful ka Pisayam pai ba sanggayam chao ba ko ang powerful oi ba angbu ne ba French speaking people se minority oi za ta ga so right ko so this was resented by the Dutch speaking community who got the benefit of economic development and education much later and leads to tension between Dutch speaking and French speaking community during 1950s and 60s Ano kay daw French-speaking people sa minority ni ko but they are very rich and powerful but there is the Dutch-speaking people sila kay na they are majority ko they are majority but they get a bit so but still they get the benefit of economic development and education gi sidi kay daw ba ako'y da dum kano pangit benefit sa pangit ka and even much later but kidawre adu na si difference la abani na ko Dutch speaking people ga French speaking people sige marakta tension arise to how a ko yana da ba pungdorak ba how a in the 1950s and 60s ki matam sida is da yana da ba tulok ba how ko so the tension between two communities were more accurate in Brussels than hen uba phangi ba sige Dutch speaking people ga French speaking people ga yana da ba capital cities na ko hen uba phangi example si ko so Brussels present a special problem that Dutch speaking people constitute a majority but minority in the capital ko adubu kay dores desta ko na Brussels da uri sa magi problems desta ko na uri sa Dutch speaking people sa majority ni haiza ta arga su ako gi capital city Brussels da di Dutch speaking people sa minority oina lairi ne yai ko Yai ko Brussels sida ista koina Dutch speaking people sina Belgium da kaino oina lai ta arga su majority oi ta arga su ko capital city Brussels se yenga ko ta arga di they are minority ne was ta ta arga lai se this is the problem the tension between Dutch speaking people and French speaking people Belgium da yai ko so ako'y Belgium gi ethnic composition understand to minari ihan hana then ako'y zikay lakini ethnic composition of Sri Lanka Belgium gi ethnic composition kamain to gi ako'y khangabani na hojik Sri Lanka gi composition se mo yeng doi ne ba ako'y hana mung ja loi ko da bani problem se hana khangdo da bani edu solution sina punna answer amata oina thimina akadoin tamina akadoin ko so Belgium gi problem ako'y understand to re ko magi composition understand to re Then now it comes to ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is India gi ako'y hek makada ko Indian map to sudum yaw lay na ko India gi map ki hek makada Sri Lanka sa ko dum puro lay bunga tani so it is island nation Sri Lanka sa samudra da lay ba ko adugumba island nation amane ba so Sri Lanka so they have a diverse population ni makal ni ba tari se ko same tradition, same culture, same language speak tawba matan natte was they say Sri Lanka ata is so different language, different culture, different tradition, different food habits ka sigumba mayam punsilaga semakpa adugumba lam amani ori ne Sri Lanka hai so it has a diverse population ka so diverse population like khange adu itarga de ako'y sa Sri Lanka sida layriba different social groups kana no haibudu ni ako'y na muging do sila ko so Sri Lanka da we have diverse population but major social groups are ko Sri Lanka da major oina tari se kana no hai kanda Sinhala speaker Sinhala lon ngang bakang buama it constitutes 74% Sinhala groups na 74% aduga Tamil speaker have 18% ko Sinhala haiba lon se ngamba kangbu amana 74% constitute tawre Sri Lanka asida aduga Tamil lon ngamasina 18% ne ba ko stage cha uwa phangi se ko so stage ta map sida so ko na uwa phangi dana to Sinhala sina 74% haidra stage ta mana kwadi yamna constitute tawre stage ta yai ko adagi di Tamil speaking people sina koi kaya no 18% katane ba Tamil speaking people sina we have only 18% sine sige Tamil speaking people sige marak sidagista subgroups amuk haido ka doine ba Tamil sidagisa Tamil lon ngangba 18% lay haba sige marak sidagista koina subgroup ani haido ka ni ba magi manung sidagisa Tamil lon ngangba marak sidagisa ani thoi there is Tamil native of the country are called Sri Lankan Tamils and the rest whose forefathers came from India as a plantation worker during colonial period are called Indian Tamil ka Sri Lankan Tamil haiba amaga Indian Tamil haiba amaga akoi Tamilian singi marak sidaisa ani thokna khaidu e ba ko Tamil lon ngang masigi marakta ani thokna khaidu e that is kai no Sri Lankan Tamil haiba amaga Indian Tamil haiba amaga Sri Lankan Tamil haidi kanano Sri Lankan Tamil hai targadi Sri Lanka da han adagi leijarappa ko native people oina leijarappa adugumba Tamil Kambu Tamil lon ngangse ba adugumba native people da aduna kai ko ba Sri Lankan Tamil ko e ba mukhoi di kai do ba Sri Lankan Tamil di only 13% ko Sri Lankan Tamil di kai do ba they constitute only 13% neba aduga whereas Indian Tamils oitar gadi Indian Tamils na atai sina stage remaining le horiba mayam se kadawra Indian Tamils ngakta neba ko so Indian Tamils di only 5% adra Indian Tamils le sidi only 5% neba ko akoi na kadawra Tamil singi maraks desu akoi kano subgroups haido e haba sima akoi stage u phange ko Indian Tamils haidi karna oiduino harakanda akoi gi colonial period ki matamda Tamil kano singse Sri Lanka da Tamilians people singse purak pa ko tea plantation gi damakta pura aga adum sidai Sri Lanka da nei khiba kangbu do mokoi gi macha masu meyam do dudana Indian Tamils haina khangnei ba haibadi akoi India ga Sri Lanka ga se adum naknare ko on the British colonial period sidai sa adum puthok pushin tawraga trade tawani khangde plantation gi damakta ko Indian plantation gi damakta purakhiba mayam do duga Sri Lanka da adum lehoba ko macha masu mayam ga tawraga adugubaduna akoi Indian Tamils haina khangnare adagi the remaining khara amana amu Muslim singju khara gara adum tai ba ko say the blue leiba mayam se Muslim mat khara gara Muslim communities adum tai ba Sri Lanka sidajo on the Sri Lanka we have different composition different ethnic composition Sinhala speakers Tamil speakers Tamil singing Maraktak we have Sri Lankan Tamil Indian Tamils and Muslim singsu akoi Sri Lanka ki composition se uba phange ko here ko so from the map we can see Sri Lankan Tamils are concentrated in the north and east of the country ano hojiki map tadagi akoi kai uba phange hojiki map sidagi akoi Sinhala speakers ka singsina mayai da leire Sri Lankan Tamil singsina on the northern side from the ka stage da akoi uba phange Sri Lankan Tamil singsina on the northern and eastern side of the Sri Lanka stage da lai have se akoi khangi ko so most of the Sri Lankans most of the Sinhala speaking people are Buddhists there is the 74% amadi Sinhala speaking people ni hai Sinhala lon singang ba sige Sinhala speaking people se kari dharma no har kanda kari dharma chatli har kanda they are Buddhist ka while most of the Tamils are Hindu or Muslim dagi di lairiba Indian Tamils pu oiro Sri Lankan Tamils pu oiro Tamil sings na kai do ba Hindu or Muslim ne ba koi Sri Lanka ni composition je yengo ka Sinhala speaking people organa makoi gi religion se Buddhist ni haiba makhange adu Tamil speaking people sina kai ba they are either Hindu or Muslim ne ba oise and there are about 7% of Christian who are both Tamil and Sinhala ko. Adagidi Christian karam chule Christian sidi it constitute only 7% ko. Today's the Tamil yawi Sinhala kambusu adum yawi 7% of Christians today's. So just imagine what could happen in the situation like this ko. Alna smaine yamna diverse oiba ko ethnic compositions may ama pulapuna laminaba today's. There may be many tensions mayam ama aroused or ambayay adu akoy stage ta sum khallo yingo sini ko si tensions mayam sini akoy na stage ta urapadoy shi ko. So akoy na stage ta kay khange akoy gi Sri Lankan Tamil sing akoy gi Sri Lanka da karamba ethnic composition lay khange huzik na tramamang da koy Belgium gi ethnic composition su khangre and magi some sort of region of tension su akoy understand to min akre ko. So aduna next akoy stage ta amu yeng ase akoy gi ethnic composition je akoy understand to akoy understand to rabani na magi problem to da amuk la adabani akoy huzik ko. So Belgium da kadawi Belgium da Dutch community sing-sina majority oibanina ko. Dutch community could take advantage of the numeric majority and force its will on the French and German-speaking population, and this would push the conflict among communities further ko. Palna Belgium sidaista akoy Dutch community sina majority oraga chatlini natra. Dutch community sina majority oraga chatlini awna mana majority oibanina kaidawa French and German speaking population sidaisa mana many forceful activities mayam adum sizinaba yaiba ngammeba majority ni na ko. But karigumba mana Dutch speaking community sina majority ni haidana Teza akoyna mana push toraga adum cha targa di kidawre. This would pose a conflict among communities further. Akoy nungai na daw tensions khara leina krido. Dutch speaking people and French speaking people commerce the 1% of German speaking people yaw racing today's the Dutch na majority ni na mana push toraga sum cha targa di. Kaidawa akoy community sing sige marak today's the he na nungai na daw he na chawa conflict thula aniba. Hina problem se hina chaw create or aniba tora tuiniba karigino akoy punna leminare ni lam sida is Dutch speaking oiro French speaking oiro German speaking oiro akoy lam sim dugi lam dumagi citizens ngakta ba majority minority tuna tongan khraga ko dubu akoy majority ni haidana akoy na masing yami haidana akoy na tongning bata tawba ko akoy na ngamme haina lon taw targadi minority ona leiriba singdugi wakhal kay lakani they will start to feel alienated ko akoy si lam sige mina trabara ko akoy si kenta lam sida right lay trabara akoy gini habada kenta to bina ba lay trabara haiba adugum questions me ama feelings me ama aroused or aniba then adugum feelings me am aroused or ta de kedawnia akoy separate pamba hora aniba different conflicts me ama tension me ama aroused or aniba ana akoy libaks the peaceful state a peaceful nation have the oibang ngama oiduini ko. So this could lead to a very messy partition of the country. Both sides would claim control over Brussels haise awna Dutch speaking people in the majority ni na mana ngamen mayam taw targadi leibak sin nuai ba ngamaroi ko leibak sin nuai roi peaceful or roi andakari or payai it may leads to a messy partition ko lamza tangkhai tar pata ba lamsa tugaira aniba sina French speaking ni ko sina Dutch speaking ni sina German speaking ni na lamza machet tugaina ani machet tugaina ko sta Brussels city capital state ni na Brussels city sa si akoy gini na loina amasu claim tongara ani amasu claim tongara ta de kedoni akoy gi marak ta he na chaw tension thola aniba he na chaw conflict thola aniba yai ko Brussels da Belgium gi wari se akoy state khange then Sri Lanka da su chapmane Sri Lanka da su Sinhala community Sinhala speaking people's majority ni they enjoyed an even bigger majority which could impose its will on the entire country ko Sinhala hariba kambu sisu Sri Lanka da leiba Sinhala kambu sisu kedoba makoy gi diam chawi natra ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯁꯤꯟꯍꯥꯂꯥ speaking peopleꯒꯤ compositionꯁꯦ 74% ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯈ꯭ꯔꯤꯅꯦꯕ ꯁꯤꯟꯍꯥꯂꯥ speaking peopleꯁꯤꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤꯗꯤ even bigger ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ 74% populationꯅꯦꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯆꯥꯎꯋꯦꯕ ꯀꯅꯥꯝꯇꯅ ꯅꯝꯊꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯔꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯗꯤ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯆꯥꯎꯔꯕꯅꯤꯅ populationꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯈ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯆꯥꯎꯅ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯀꯥ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯐꯪꯉꯕꯅꯤꯅ entire countries ꯗꯩꯁꯦ ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯝ countries ꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯅꯤꯡꯕꯗ ꯇꯧꯕꯗ ꯀꯅꯥꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯑꯃꯠꯇꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ oppose ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯄ ꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ react ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯄꯒꯤ ꯆꯥꯡꯁꯦ ꯅꯦꯝꯃꯛꯀꯗꯣꯏꯅꯦꯕ and could impose its will on the entire country ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ country ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯇꯧꯅꯤꯡꯕꯗ ꯇꯧꯍꯟꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯟ communitiesꯅ because 74% majorityꯅꯦꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ majority ꯃꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯆꯥꯎꯋꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ populationꯁꯦ ꯀꯣ so ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ side ꯑꯅꯤꯃꯛ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯑꯅꯤꯃꯛꯁꯦ ꯈꯪꯉꯦ ꯕꯦꯜꯖꯤꯌꯝꯒꯤ ethnic composition ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥꯒꯤ ethnic composition ꯀꯣ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ majorityꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯄ ꯊꯕꯛꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯀꯔꯤ impact ꯂꯥꯛꯄ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯈꯪꯉꯦ then look at what happened in both this country then in the next ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯥꯛꯇꯣꯏꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ country ꯑꯅꯤꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥꯗ ꯑꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯕ꯭ꯔꯨꯁꯦꯜꯁ ꯕꯦꯜꯖꯤꯌꯝ ꯁꯤꯗꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯛꯀꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ what happens ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯨꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯌꯦꯡꯗꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯣ ꯌꯥꯔꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥꯗ ꯕꯦꯜꯖꯤꯌꯝꯗ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯛꯀꯦ what happens ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯨ ꯌꯦꯡꯗꯣꯏꯅꯦ so first ꯁ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯂꯪꯀꯥꯗ ꯌꯦꯡꯁꯦꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯀꯣ majoritarianism in Sri Lanka ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯦ majoritarianism ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ majoritarianism ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ majority communityꯁꯤꯅ countryꯗꯨꯕꯨ rule ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯁꯥꯁꯟ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯆꯠꯄ masing yamba community lamdugi masing yamba community sina majority community sina kaidauba countries rule tawraga chatpada in whichever way it wants by disregarding the wishes and needs of the minority haise minority singi ko masing yamjadaba makhoigi apamba pamdaba du kemta na chungdana makhoina majority peoples na pamedana makhoina tawningba mawongda tawba makhoina sashan tawningba mawongda rule tawningba mawongda tawbado adugumbado akoina kai kawi majoritarianism ko ism bu hapak targadi ideology ni haibasima koi khangi ko majoritarianism gi idea se kaino haibasima khangi so these topics you ubada ju khangi majoritarianism in Sri Lanka thale auna kai khangi Sri Lanka da akoi majoritarianism gi ideology ja follow tawramgani haibasima akoi topic sidagi khitang da orse lamjinba ngame ngamdabra ngamni ka habadi majoritarianism gi idea se belief system se piraga leirabani ba majority community singsina country the rule tawni have a mode da rule tawba regardless of the needs and wishes of the minority ko minority the mo allow the bida makoi apam pam da kemta yeng the bida makoi na tawni na tawbu du kai kawi majoritarianism ko en haire ko so Sri Lanka sida kari maina majoritarianism se laino yeng se ko majoritarianism they Sri Lanka gi majority versi kana ne bo hojik ta hai gi Sinhala's community 74% ko makona dominate tawri 74% eba mukhogi population se makona majority oi se ko so Sri Lanka se kedawa it became an independent country in 1948 independent country amoina thole independent country amoina lay Sri Lanka se ana Sri Lanka ni independent oiba matam se is the leader se kanana oige har kanda Sinhala community dagi oiba independent bangaba matungda Sri Lanka gi leader se kanana oi Sri Sinhala community na oi ka it sought to secure dominance of a government by virtue of their majority makoina majority oibaduna maram oiraga masing yambaduna maram oiraga government se makoina passion ba paihowa haibasina khanbasina kadauba independent oiraba matungda Sinhala community sina Sri Lanka gi leader oi haba yare ko government sina koina Sri Lanka Sinhala community sina pare after they got independence so makoina government se pare banina Sinhala community sina government se pare banina kadawra results as a result the democratically elected government adopt a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy haise alna kadoba Sinhala communities na makoina majority ni makodi masing yamba kangluk ni haidana makoina government se paishalla banina adugi idea da government se paira abanina kaidore makoina government se paira aba matungda democratically elected oita ka su ko democratically elect oraga paira pa government se ma pa government oisa tar ga su sinhala community na paira banina majoritarian measures mayam local e makoigina supremacy oraga supreme oraga chatna lebak se makoina dum ngamna makoina palaga dum chatna na ba haidana different measures mayam local to hore eba measures sing se kai no har kanda in 1958 ka 1958 ek ama passed away adogi ek sina passed away se kai no they recognize Sinhala as only official language disregarding Tamil ka akoi khangadabani ka majoritarian measures ka akoi gi Sinhala community singsina lokhalakpa majoritarian measures se kai no hane exam da hanga agadi first point akoi stage se leire ka first point akoi stage se leire kadoba Sinhala community na pairabani na Sinhala hariba lon sina ta kanogi Sri Lanka gi one and only official language organis there's only have wahayam yaris one and only official language organina 1956 ki ex is a passed away example akoi India yang se ba ko akoi India su diverse country neba different communities mayam ama different languages kaya ama different culture different tradition different food habits ka si mayam sa punjilaga semba adugumba diverse oiba country amani India se si yamba matamda akoi gi India gi national language official language ama akoi India gi official language ama laibra had only one and only official language ama laibra had laiteba khoi gi da ko kai gi no higher kan da laiba different communities different languages me have the respect tongna chatline ba amaron da ko but sidadi kai tawre example hoi sidaista lawre iba Sri Lanka sidadi Sinhala community sina majority oiba community amani mokoina pale mokoina panbas da mokoi supremacy se puraga chatna ba laina na ba establish tongna ba haidin yan hana 1956 sidaista Sinhala haiba lonza one and only official language of Sri Lanka oina adopt to recognize to Tamil lon kana mo log stage the recognize to bidre Tamil lon official language amoina Sri Lanka da yai ko so the government follow preferential policy that favor Sinhala applicant for university position and government jobs is it second suba makoi supremacy established tongna bagi second suba point the highest na kai no government sina kaidauba akoi kanogi oiro like tambagi bu oiro thabaki bu oiro akoi Indian oita adi akoi ki Indian context yeng se example sing se ko if you are Indian ko aduga akoi any job to gi akoi educational qualification to fulfill toragadi we are all eligible ko akoi thabak to gi post to gi damak akoi loina eligible oiba nang Hindu ni nang Christian ni nang Muslim ni nang di Hindi ngangi nang di English ngangi nang di atopa lun ngangi haidana from thousand the yai ya de haiba adugumba amata laite ko everyone is equal on a low way but they say the way the government of Sri Lanka preferred over Sinhala applicants Sinhala speaking people ge makoi applicants singa adudu and prefer to Sri Lankan government sinapa atopa singdo prefer to video ko khatu eba ko Sinhala applicant singdo na lokhat na bokhat na eba government sinako then a new constitution stipulated that the state shall protect and foster Buddhism third point of establishing supremacy by Sinhala is kaina third point la isa Sinhala hariba kambu se Sinhala speaking group se kari religion follow to wi hai Buddhism follow to wi hai natra awna kadoba ahum suba point da hai se makoi sema even new constitution la Sri Lanka dia aw dei se kadoba Buddhism haiba religion se hena protect to ko hena foster to na ba hena progress na na ba government sina hotna bigata bani haidana aduma amasu adopt to re ko habadi atopa religion so chamana na every religion puna ma protect to si foster to si haidana haibna te it specifies only Buddhism haiba religion ji khatane ba specify to is which is directly related to Sinhala community atra Sinhala community ke directly link layni Sinhala kampu atane ba ayamana Buddhism follow tawrise Sri Lanka ta ko auna Buddhism se have this stage ta Sinhala kampu sibu jana protect tawraga thambiba mokoi religion se hena protect tawiba hena prosperous o henba haibsini stage focus tawrise yare ko auna Sinhala singsina mokoi supremacy established tongena bai damakta kari measures lokhat ke have akoi khangye point hum laire ko Sinhala as the only official language when recognized over Sinhala applicants in the prefer over the Buddhism have religion je hena protect over hena foster tongena ba hotna ba sigi point ahum zillaire akona exam the majoritarian measures taken up by the Sri Lankan government to establish Sinhala supremacy have tardy akoi answer sida laire ko so akoi Sinhala community singsina mokoi protect tawnana ba or mokoi supremacy established tawnana ba thabak mayam measures mayam pankhatle hare adu ita hargadi there is a Sri Lanka that different ethnic compositions Tamil speaking people lairi natra mokoi ek mathang da ko adu ita di atopa leihoriba communities mayam du nungai ongdra ba sige Sinhala supremacy established tawnana ba mokoi gi Sinhala loan ji katang national language on thokpa mokoi applicant du katang prefer to ba mokoi gi religion du katang protect tawna ba khotna ta ga di government sina lairiba atopa community sing sa nungai na hoi haraga nu aga yinga leram ga dra ba leramoi ko they started feeling alienated they started to feel alienated ko alienation ki feelings akoi se tongan ta ba ko lamdu da belong to da ba man ba adugumba feelings insecurity singda poklak pa hore so all these government measures coming one after another gradually increase the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils haise ko auna Sri Lankan kano governments na local iba measures thabak thoram yam sina kaidoba Sri Lankan Tamil singi mafam da di kaidoba feeling of alienation se aroused over hore makoi je lamdugi mina tabadona ko lamdugi belongingness to feel torak treba tunghan ta ba alienate oibagi feelings ya uglak ba hore ko aduna di kaidor e tunghan ta bagi feeling of alienation se la ko horabani na there may be some reaction of which they se urani ko so they felt that none of the major political parties led by Buddhist Sinhala leaders were sensitive to their language and culture and felt that the constitution and the government policy denied their equal political rights. Kwa auna akoi sida the feeling of alienation si kamaina la ke har kanda kai bhawi akoi gi Sri Lankan Tamil sing sida is that Sri Lankan Buddhist Sinhala leaders lairiba akoi political parties singi leaders ne lairiba singsina makoi gi Sri Lankan Tamil sing sigi yaifana ba ko makoi gi loan gi makoi gi culture gi makoi gi yaifana ba damakta kari su khandidre major political party ama waina lairiba makoi meyam sina Sri Lankan Tamils akoi gi damakta kari gumbam ta feel to bidre akoi gi damakta yaifana ba kari gumbam ta bidre haiba wakhalon sa insecurity sa feeling of alienation that power horror Sri Lankan Tamils days that and also the constitution and the government policies na so ako gi konsemi ba Sri Lankan constitution aduga Sri Lankan government gi policy sing sina so Sri Lankan people sing that Sri Lankan people sing say equal political right pidre ka Sri Lankan Tamils ka adagi di Sinhala community singa and then atopa lairiba ethnic community singa gi marakta discrimination sa laire haibasima they started feeling ka major political parties singsina su makoi si kemta moa lobi da ba ko kemta khanbi da ba khanbi dre habadu mazu khalle makoi da power act and then constitution na su government policy singsina su equal political rights deny to re pi dre ko koi je discriminate to re high feelings su la ho so discrimination against them in getting job and other opportunities and ignore their interests as a result the relation between Sinhala and Tamil community strained over time. Haise auna kedore akoi mangi makoi ge measures in the zu high grade ko Sinhala applicant dun hen prefer to we na ko aduna thabak su phangnaraktre hoje ko auna thabak ki matang bu oiro la ek tambagi bu oiro sida is the discrimination se uba hor e Sri Lankan Tamil sing se loin ignore or a opportunities me interest me am stays at pibidre hangidre have a similar lady aduna kadoba Sinhala singa Tamil singdagi marakta lainariba relations afaba relation di oidreba, a very strong and positive relation di oiraktre hena phataba nushinadaba ko adugumagi feelings so lagba hore between Sinhala and the Tamil communities in the Sri Lanka. Ko here ko makoi singi makoi ani communities ani sige marakta nuainadaba ko relations afaba relation oiraktre have a similar then kadore adu etadi uze Sri Lankan Tamil sing sinasu makoi lairiba Sinhala Buddhist Sinhala leaders major political party ama oiriba makoi nasu Sri Lankan Tamil sigi maramda matang de kemta khandidre yai phanaba khandidre habasima khal la abanina laira abanina uzi kadore Sri Lankan Tamil launched party and struggle for recognition of Tamil as an official language. Auna kadore makoi mi atopa party se tangzadana kanararoi khandana Sri Lankan Tamil sina kadoba makoi yesu oiba political party makoi je party launch thore aduga kadoba they started demanding and struggling for recognition of Tamil as an official language ka Sinhala sikatangna official language oibe yaroi Tamil sisu Sri Lanka official language oigadabani habgi demand se pukhalapa hore by the Sri Lankan parties ka Sri Lankan Tamil party sina. So for regional autonomy and equality of autonomy in securing education and job ko adagidi makogi lamgi regional autonomy pibiba ko adagidi thabak thoram singda job ki bu matang yo ro ama education ki bu oiro of the equal opportunity pibiba haibasigi demand sa puthorakpa talakpa hore Tamil people singse but makogi demand se kedoba but their demand for more autonomy to province populated by the Tamil was repeatedly denied. Adubu states the Taliban demand Tamil launch official language ko hengadabani Tamil singna khundaba mafam the autonomy pibi gadabani ko they get the equal opportunity pigadabani haidana Taliban demand sing se kadore makoi autonomy gi demand se di kadoba denied obideba yabideba government sina yadeva makoi autonomy pigadabani have a demand se low deba pideba ko by 1980 1980s several political organizations were formed and demanding independent Tamil Elam that is state in the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. 1980 Europe 1980 Europe political organizations mayam thole Tamils ke ko aduga kari demand to hore just makoi ahan badidi regional autonomy makoi lay mafam sinjesa autonomy khara ning ta bakra pibi yo na demand to ramani ko adu phangaktrabani na 1980 dadi makoi kari demand to hore the demand Tamil Elam ko means Tamil state Tamil yu oiba tungan ba state ama pibi ro na demand to hore koina mamang de yeng bakanda so Sri Lankan Tamil sing se kadai de lay hai akoi northern and eastern sides they still lay have a sima akoi states de ko northern and eastern sides da lay have a sima akoi Sri Lankan maps de gi uwa phangthren na tra alna hojik taliba Sri Lankan independent Elam state sa kadoba si the northern and eastern hamba sides sa Sri Lanka gi independent state amona PB rola 1980s the demand of horeba makoina majority when elizaba makoina khundaba mafam singsa Tamil singna khundaba mafam singsa independent Tamil Elam ohenbi ro ka PB ro la demand of hore so makoiga su tongan ba issue ka interest la abnina han degi su khara relation se nungaina da su leirabanina ka dawra the distrust between the two community turned into a widespread conflict and soon turned into a civil war has ona kadoba Sri Lanka state Sinhala community na so supremacy tan bu konarakpa supremacy to tan basida Tamil people sing se ignore orabanina Tamil people sing na so independent state independent Elam ko independent Tamil Elam tan ba horopasina communities ani sige marakta yam chaw na nuaina da thole yam chaw conflict ama thole adugi conflict na kadoba civil war ama oire e ko civil war de kaina a violent conflict between opposing groups within a country that becomes so intense that it appears like war habadi kaina lamduda leminaba ko lamduda ista leminariba different communities singdugi marakta nuainadaba conflict yanadaba thulakpaduna sum chawthuraga lan amagi mawongda ko hatnaba sunaba meyama unaba yadaba lan amagi mawongda lakta argadi we call it as civil war. Sigi civil war ge mawong sa koi Sri Lanka da su laeba between the Sinhala community and the Tamil speaking people singi marak states da kai ko akoi states da Sri Lanka da civil war se lae. So civil war se laabani na kadawre both thousands of the people of both communities have to unavaya nadre communities anima awu bahatna re ko mayam sire many families ko leave countries Sri Lanka thadu ga chen ba refugee oina chen gi ba hingna be damakta atopa lam singda refugee oina chen gi ba mayam su yawre. So but this civil war has caused a terrible setback to the social culture and economic life of the country. Aduna kadawa civil war thulakpasina Sri Lanka gi social culture economy ko stage mayam amang ata mayam mangzaba mayam stage pura e ko both side ki kana badi kenta su phangdre stage sivana basina tana duga community kano Sri Lanka as a country dugi mangzaba ko socially culturally economically mangzaba maya purla and this civil war ended in 2009 ko 2009 di wigi lushan grab civil war se ko so this akoina majority kana people sing say majoritarianism se Sri Lanka da kamaini adopt tongna ba khotna ki habasima akoi ngasi stage ta khange ko Belgium gi ethnic composition khange Sri Lanka gi ethnic composition khange and then Sri Lanka da mokoi conflict lenar eba stage ta Sri Lanka sina majoritarianism ko they want to establish supremacy Sinhala community na supremacy establish tongna bo na stage ta kari nuai taba ko kari tholakpa ko stage se yenge na tra Tamil people sing se nuai tadana mokoi express to bhor and then later on they started demanding independent Tamil ilam ko and then which lead to civil war habisini ba khona ngasigi chapter number 1 so this is Tamil topic sing se ko so in the next chapter da akoina muktam doshina Sri Lanka yengabani na accommodation in Karaida Belgium gi su akoi ethnic composition tam widana nuai na the tension reason for tension da su yengredana adubu accommodation se di kamain to ki Belgium da di kamain akoi resolve tong na khonna ki ko power sharing to dabra hujik Sri Lanka di power sharing to dabagi ne ba yenarakta bagi amana supai passion ninga ko di thola ibanga tane ba ko adubu Belgium da di kamain to wi habaduna we will discuss in the next class ko masigi wala di stelo shila si next class na ko Belgium da di kamaina tawgi habdo amu makhata na punni yeminar shi power sharing si kamaina la I habdo ka okay thank you